Christian, good to see you and appreciate your time, and thank you for joining us. So this negative outlook, is it based more on ability to service debt or absolute debt levels?
Well, it's based on the ability to service debt, which of course is a function of the debt levels. So perhaps I can just start by saying that, our negative outlook for Asia is really based on three broad drivers. I think you already mentioned one of them. One is growth, and that's on the back of the sort of lackluster situation in China that we're seeing. Second, we're looking at sort of tight funding conditions. This is also predicated on global liquidity conditions where we really don't see the Fed easing until the middle of the year, and Asia Pacific central banks, we don't see much decoupling vis-a-vis global liquidity conditions there. And then lastly, there's these sort of geopolitical risks that are going on. The two previous sessions before me talked about India, Indonesia, so that's part of it. But also the ongoing sort of strategic tensions, even though that perhaps there has been some easing in the last couple of months, but strategic tension between China and the U.S. are going to persist. So that is still also weighing on some of the global some of the outlook, medium-term outlook for growth in Asia.
So it sounds as though, for this part of the world, the Fed can't start cutting rates soon enough. You mentioned around about a halftime, mid-year start to that. In terms of cycles, how synchronized or not are central banks in the Indo-Pacific versus the Fed? Are they going to follow lockstep? Can they afford to do so?
Well, I think broadly speaking, they are moving in lockstep, and that's what we had seen for much of the past year and a half. There are, of course, outliers there. When you think about China or India, those countries with closed capital counts, they have a degree of independence that perhaps the likes of those with more open capital counts, such as those in Southeast Asia, they won't be able to sort of really move away from what the Fed is doing. In each of these countries, the sort of capital flow picture is very important because of what it does to exchange rates, for example, and that's going to have an impact on domestic monetary policy through the inflation channel, for example.
Christian, where then in the region is the fiscal position perhaps the most precarious, and who then is most vulnerable to a downgrade?
Sure. Well, I think what we can say is that in general, fiscal consolidation is going to proceed very slowly all across the region. When we say vulnerabilities, some countries are going to be okay maintaining those relatively wide fiscal deficits, and that could be a function of the depth of domestic capital markets, the ease with which they can raise funding, and so we see a lot of these countries being sort of advanced economies. At the opposite end of the scale, what we see as quite vulnerable continues to be the frontier markets. They are susceptible to those globally tight funding conditions, and also there's a reform element. I think we also, as part of our considerations with regards to the negative outlook, we are looking at elections, for example. An election is going to influence the appetite for reform for certain governments and frontier economies. Can they adhere to for example, IMF reform programs in the likes of Pakistan or Bangladesh, and thereby continue to sustain funding? So I think we do see a dichotomy there between the sort of advanced economies on one, frontier economies on the other, and sort of there's a large swath in the middle.
Hi, I'm Emily Tan, and thanks for watching CNBC. You can check out more of our videos by clicking on the boxes on the screen, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more. Thanks for watching.